if you wish, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. And while he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And suddenly a voice came out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were greatly afraid. But Yeshua came and touched them and said, Arise, do not be afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Yeshua only. Now as they came down from the mountain, Yeshua commanded them, saying, Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is risen from the dead. So here is the second time a very intimate event takes place, and Yeshua only invites Peter, John, and James. Why is that? Something to think about. Why is that? Did he see something in Peter, John, and James that he didn't see in the other disciples, later to become apostles? Matthew 26. I'm trying to go through this sort of in chronological order of Peter's life, and hopefully I'm getting the order correct here. Matthew 26 is the next example that we see of Peter that I want to bring out at least. There's so many examples in here I could have picked, but this is one that we want to take a look at. Chapter 26 of Matthew has a lot of them here, so you're going to be in this chapter for a little while. Matthew 26, beginning in verse 31. Then Yeshua said to them, he's talking to the disciples, All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. So this takes place right after the Lord's Supper, the Passover meal that he has with the 12. And he's speaking to them. He's saying, All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee. Peter answered. Now isn't it interesting, when he's with the disciples, almost in every case, Peter is the one that speaks up. The other ones don't, you don't say, it didn't say, and John said, or Andrew said, or it's Peter. Almost every time Peter speaks up, he's not afraid. Peter answered and said to him, Even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble. Yeshua said to him, Assuredly I say to you, this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. What does Peter say back to him? No, I won't. No. No, I won't. He says, Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you. And so said all the disciples. They all agreed with that, but Peter is the one that actually spoke it. He said, No. I will never deny you. And they all said, No, we won't either. We agree with Peter. Let's keep reading. Verse 36. Then Yeshua came to them to a place called Gethsemane. And this is number 3 of the intimate events that only Peter, John, and James are invited to. So make note of this. This is the number 3. Verse 36. Then Yeshua came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to the disciples, Sit here while I go and pray over there. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee. We know who those are. That's John and James. And he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. So he brings this intimate group of 3 of the disciples with him to this very private place where he is feeling down. He's feeling, he knows what is coming. They don't know. He told them, but they're not getting it yet. And he takes Peter and James and John with him over here, where he's going to be praying. Verse 39. He went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Then he came to the disciples and found them asleep. So the three of them that he left over here, they're sleeping now. So he says to Peter, "What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away again, a second time, and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if this cup cannot pass away from me unless I drink of it, your will be done." And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. So he left them, went away again, and prayed the third time, saying the same words. So here's an example of the third time where Yeshua takes this small group with him to a very intimate event that the others are not invited to. They're down the hill a little bit further. He only brings Peter, James, and John up with him. So a little ways off, he's praying to the Father. Unfortunately, they all fall asleep. Okay, let's drop down a little bit further and read some more that takes place here. This also shows a part of Peter's personality, beginning in verse 50. So they're in the Garden of Gethsemane. He prays to the Father, and now he gathers his disciples together, and he says this. Or as Judas is approaching with the Roman soldiers, Yeshua said to him, to Judas, "Friend, why have you come?" And then they came and laid hands on Yeshua and took him. And suddenly, verse 51, one of those who were with Yeshua stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Guess who that was? Yeah, it was Peter. It was Peter. And we can prove that by turning over to John 18, verse 10. So if you don't believe me, turn to John 18, verse 10. You will read that it was actually Peter that did this. So let's read on. Then Yeshua said to him, "Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the scriptures be fulfilled, that it must happen thus?" Well, here he's talking directly to Peter. Peter just whipped out his sword, and I suspect Peter intended to cut the head off, not just the ear. But he was deflected somehow and just cut the ear off. But this is Peter. Peter doesn't think first, he just acts. He does what he thinks he needs to do. He's a man of action. Is there something about being a man of action or a woman of action? Something about Peter's character